So let's welcome in our quarterback, Brady Quinn, to rank his top 10 quarterbacks entering the season. A lot of people will have a lot of opinions about this. We're going to start with those who didn't make the cut. Not in your top 10, Brady. Kirk Cousins, Kyler Murray isn't there, or Dak Prescott. You got two of the three making some of the most money in the NFL. Why did they not make the cut?
I think overall, when I'm kind of looking at what they've done thus far and then compare it to some of the quarterbacks and what they spinning it forward are going to do this year, I just feel a little higher on these 10. But I think you could probably make an argument for Kirk Cousins, his consistency, having one of the best wide receivers in the NFL, and Justin Jefferson to throw to. And really, with a new head coach, new offense, what that's going to look like, it could mean big numbers. He could easily fall into that category. I think Kyler Murray, who's gotten better year after year after year being in the league, now is the new contract that he's been looking for. He's another guy that I think could potentially put up those numbers, but let's not forget, DeAndre Hopkins is out the first 6 games of this season, so that's not going to help him very much. And then Dak Prescott. Look, Dak's been extremely productive. He's another guy I could throw in this conversation, but Amari Cooper gets traded away to the Cleveland Browns. You wonder if they don't get off to a great start this year, if maybe there's a little heat on, Mike McCarthy, how that will end up looking. But bottom line is, you could probably make a case for him. I just felt like these 10 made more sense in my mind, especially looking at moving forward, what they're capable of doing.
All right, so let's start at number 10. Here's somebody who did make it onto your list, Derek Carr, about to enter his 9th season in the NFL. Did lead the Raiders to their first winning season since 2016-17, made it to the postseason there. So why is Derek Carr coming in at number 10?
Well, I think he's done more with less. This is one of the more underappreciated quarterbacks, considering the fact that he's not really had a number 1 wide receiver he's been throwing to. I mean, Darren Waller's been fantastic at tight end, but a wide receiver, it's been a revolving door. They've had all sorts of different issues. Whether you want to go back to Henry Ruggs off the field or Antonio Brown, or even, looking at Amari Cooper earlier in his career, being that shining light, but then not necessarily being as consistent. So he's continually put up stats, put up numbers, giving this team a chance to win, especially with a defense that hasn't really been in the top half of the league consistently at any point in time in his career. I don't think he gets enough credit. And I think now you look at the fact that they give him Devontae Adams. You bring in Josh McDaniels as your head coach. He's one of the best offensive minds there is. It's scary to think what they're capable of putting together. I think the only question becomes how competitive that division is and how they stand up versus everyone else. But I'm high on Derek Carr. I've been a supporter for a long time for the way he's played. And I think the future looks bright for him with Josh McDaniels as their head coach.
Brady, your bestie Pete Prisco is not able to be on with us. I texted him your list. He really only had 2 comments, but the first one coming about the guy coming in at number 9, threw for a franchise record 5,014 yards last season, more touchdowns than any quarterback in history in their first 2 seasons. Justin Herbert all the way at number 9. Why?
All the way at number 9, you act like that's a knock. I mean, look at how many other good quarterbacks have either won a Super Bowl or won MVP that aren't named Justin Herbert on this list. There's a lot of good players up ahead of him. So I don't look at it as a knock at all. I think what he's done in his first 2 years is incredible. One of the most prolific passers our league has ever seen. I think he's going to continue to prove why he's going to keep climbing in this list. But if there are critics to it, it's only because look at the guys ahead of him that I have on the list. So again, I'm a big believer in Justin Herbert. I think he has all the tools and ability that you need right now in today's league to be successful. He's got a huge arm. He's athletic enough to extend plays and really threaten defenses with his feet and actually be a legitimate runner. So he's a guy that I think, along with the LA Chargers this year, has high hopes and aspirations, and I'm high on them. But again, I've got a lot of other guys who've proved themselves already in this league that I couldn't put him ahead of.
Someone who has proved himself already, coming in 1 ahead of Justin Herbert, that would be Russell Wilson with his new team. He has proven himself, but how much is this a prove-it season for Russell Wilson with his new team?
Maybe a prove-it season in the sense of you got new ownership there in Denver, and he wants a new deal. He wants a new contract extension, so I'm sure he's going to want to showcase some of his best football in order to get that big-time deal that he's looking for. But I think he's going to get it. I mean, you go back to his time in Seattle, really where they had success, they were kind of handcuffing him at times and not allowing him to throw the football as much as you would like, or at least as much as you see with other franchises. So he's going to have the opportunity to do that with Nathaniel Hackett. They've got a bunch of weapons and playmakers on the outside with Cortland Sutton, who's a big target, obviously. Jerry Jeudy, their first-round pick, who's continued to improve, and KJ Hamler with some legitimate speed, not even to mention the tight end position. So I'm very high on Russell Wilson and the consistency that he's displayed over the course of his career. And for people who want to knock this selection with where he's at, Look, outside of a rough patch where he missed some games last year and came back probably too soon with that mallet finger, even then he played pretty well in adapting to having to adjust his grip and adjust his throwing motion. So Russell Wilson, no doubt in my mind, given the success, the track record he's got, should be a part of this conversation.
Walking through Brady Quinn's top 10 quarterbacks entering this season. So number 10, just to recap, we have Derek Carr, Justin Herbert, number 9, Russell Wilson at number 8. Number 7, concerns about his elbow right now. We have Super Bowl winning quarterback Matt Stafford.
Yeah, that's obviously one of the concerns here is what does that mean long term? It's a really unique injury for a quarterback, something that you tend to see a little bit more in the baseball world. So that's a concern moving forward. However, that being said, look, you get your coach back. You get Aaron Donald signed back on the opposite side of the football, which, trust me, that's going to help you not have to win in a shootout every single week. And then, look, they don't have Odell Beckham on their roster at this point, but you sign Allen Robinson. I am really optimistic about Allen Robinson's opportunity to play a huge impact next to Cooper Kupp, taking some pressure off of him. And we just saw in 1 year's time Matt Stafford's ability in going to a franchise that's had more recent success and really had more success for the course of their franchise history than Detroit Lions, what he's capable of. He's always had a good arm. Now we're really seeing those leadership qualities, the clutchness, all the things that I think got overlooked at times because he was playing for a Detroit Lions team that wasn't playing in meaningful games. He's on a much better roster. He's on a much better team in a much tougher division. And now he's the defending Super Bowl champ. So you got to give him his props where credit's due. I talked about Derek Carr being underappreciated. I think Matt Stafford falls in that category too. A lot of former quarterbacks out there will tell you they love his game. They love everything about him. He just doesn't get the same type of love as everyone else. I think as his tenure continues there in LA, you're going to see that narrative change.
Just ahead of Matt Stafford coming in at number 6, former MVP. We did not see him, though, after Week 14. He got hurt in that game. Lamar Jackson, a lot of people divided on the Ravens right now heading into this season. And when I asked you right before we came on air, things people might not agree with, Lamar Jackson was the first name you came up with sitting at number 6.
There's a couple of those I think I threw in there too, but this is one that I think is a bit polarizing because, if you look at really where he was in his MVP season, statistically speaking, it seems like he's taken a dip the past couple of seasons. What's hard for me to overlook, though, is the dynamic ability that he brings to the table as a runner. I mean, he is one of the most explosive playmakers in the league when he gets outside the pocket, and the young man's a winner. And bottom line is we don't worry about this team getting the postseason. We worry about what they do once they get to the postseason. And unfortunately, he has to wear that heavy crown because everything falls on him. Meanwhile, their defense has been spotty at times. And I don't know that they've ever really supplied the type of wide receivers around him that he needs to be successful. All that being said, once again, I'm optimistic of Lamar Jackson being able to prove to everyone that he's one of the top quarterbacks in this league, and he's one of the most dynamic playmakers. I mean, I feel like if you put him on most rosters within the NFL, they're going to be a successful team, or at least going to be more competitive because of his athleticism and because of his growth, and he's going to continue to keep growing as a pocket passer. So he, to me, sits at number 6, and I think you'd be hard-pressed to find anyone who's going to put any other top 5 quarterback in my next group or this next list we're about to talk about.
Let's break into your top 5, starting with number 5. Cool Joe Burrow led the NFL in completion percentage last season, also yards per attempt, made it to the Super Bowl there. So why is number 5 appropriate for Joe Burrow? And then potentially, how high could he be next season?
Yeah, I think he could probably jump into, something I might have to do with whether Tom Brady retires or not, or when Aaron Rodgers retires, but he could definitely be in that top 3 conversation or consideration. I mean, bottom line is Joe Burrow's been everything I think we'd hoped he was going to be as the number 1 overall pick for the Cincinnati Bengals. Obviously, without the exception of him getting hurt in his rookie season, then recently dealing with an appendectomy, he's the type of guy that's a franchise quarterback that's going to keep Cincinnati competitive for years to come for an AFC championship and for a Super Bowl. He's got the touch, he's got the accuracy, he's got enough athleticism too to threaten you with his legs, all the things that you're looking for. And you said Joe Cool. I mean, it seems like when they need him to the most, he steps up and he's clutch in those moments. And he's got a bunch of talented wide receivers, in particular Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and Tyler Boyd, to throw to. So you'd have to think that they're only just getting started in Cincinnati, and Joe Burrow is going to continue to rise up this list.
He is cool. He's got the sunglasses. He's got the cigars. He's a cool guy. You mentioned Tom Brady. You mentioned Aaron Rodgers. We have not touched on them yet. We have also not touched on Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes. So out of those guys, it is Patrick Mahomes coming in at number 4. Why is he behind those 3?
I honestly think you could throw this in any particular order with these next 4 quarterbacks. I put Mahomes at 4 a little bit because I think he took somewhat of a step back last year. Now, look, maybe some of that had to do with the Tyreek Hill, moving on and deciding to go somewhere else, and maybe the Chiefs were okay with that. The reality is he's still a top 5 quarterback. I think he's going to continue to keep climbing. He doesn't present the same type of athletic element that I believe Josh Allen does. That's why I have Josh Allen a little bit ahead of him. But in talking about Mahomes, look, he's one of the most dynamic playmakers we'll see as far as throwing from the pocket, off his back foot, off platform, whatever he needs to do. And he still has Travis Kelce. They had Juju Smith-Schuster along with Marquez Valdez-Scantling. And Sky Moore is going to be a big piece of replacing Tyreek Hill as well. And then not to mention Miko Hardman. So they have a bounty of riches, one of the best play callers. There's no doubt in my mind they're going to be one of the top offenses. So he's going to be one of the top quarterbacks. It just comes down to how fast they can all get on the same page with so many new pieces that are going to have to develop chemistry and are going to have to be able to replace what you had in Tyreek Hill for the past 4 years.
You mentioned Josh Allen a little bit more, maybe athletic ability, have him just a little bit higher. You have him coming in at number 3. This is something where Pete Prisco said, look, I think Josh Allen should be higher than Tom Brady. Obviously, Tom Brady is going to be higher than him, according to your list. So why do we find Josh Allen at number 3?
Well, I'm still trying to figure out why we care what Pete Prisco thinks, but the reality is Josh Allen has that athletic element, and he's going to have his number 1 wide receiver coming back with him in Stephon Diggs. So I think that's a big plus, and maybe one of those considerations too when you pick Josh Allen over a guy like Patrick Mahomes, where those guys are contemporaries, and I think they're very even when you look at their production, what they're capable of. My one concern for the Bills are how long it's going to take Ken Dorsey, who yes was their quarterback coach, but how long it's going to take him to develop that chemistry as a play caller now that Brian Daboll has moved on to become head coach of the New York Giants. There is a filling out process there, not only for Ken Dorsey getting a feel for what he likes to do as a play caller, different from what they've done in the past, but also what Josh Allen likes and how that working relationship is going to go. So obviously, I think the world of this young man, he's got all the ability in the world. They're very similar to kind of Justin Herbert as far as the big arm and athleticism and ability to extend the play. But this team is much better positioned to go win a Super Bowl, in my opinion, because they play in a much easier division. But I've got Josh Allen at number 3. I think considering what he's done so far, it's probably an appropriate spot for him.
Brady, 2 names not mentioned yet, Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady, your number 1 and 2. So coming in at number 2, 45-year-old Tom Brady.
I mean, look, what he's doing is incredible. I mean, I think part of the reason, too, why he sits at this spot, and Pete Prisco can agree, but he's an old geezer, too, so he should relate with Tom Brady in that sense, is we've never seen something like this before. It's a 45-year-old who led the league in passing yards. I mean, he's going to get first place votes for MVP, as he should. I mean, it's incredible what he's been able to accomplish. And they still have Chris Godwin. They're keeping it all together. They still have Mike Evans, and they bring in Julio Jones to add to that. And look, I know people are concerned Gronk's not there, but they still have Cameron Brate at tight end, and you sign Kyle Rudolph in free agency, and you draft Cade Otton. So they're replacing a lot of what they had. I think the concern is, what does this offense look like, or does it differ at all now that BA is not head coach and maybe playing a role, even though Byron Leftwich has largely called the offensive plays since Tom Brady's been there. And the other thing you might be concerned with is the Ryan Jensen injury. Now, look, I know Robert Hainsey. I think he's very much up to the task of being able to protect Tom Brady. So I think they're fine there. It just comes down to, what's going on currently with him. Clearly, he's not at training camp right now. I know this was pre-planned, but you do have to wonder when you get to this point in time in your life and in your career, if there's other thoughts, things that are going through his head right now. So, look, if Tom Brady's in there, he's going to be one of the best quarterbacks in the league. You better believe that.
So coming in at number 1, that would be Aaron Rodgers, back-to-back MVP winner. When you were making this list, was Aaron Rodgers the first name you wrote down? Was it super easy to put him at number 1?
Yeah, actually, the first 4 was super easy, at least for me. Aaron Rodgers was easy to put at 1. For me, Tom Brady with what he's done and how productive he was last season was easy to put at 2. But he's the back-to-back MVP. You got to pay respect to a guy who's played as good a football as anyone over the past couple of seasons. But again, it's a concern because you don't have Devontae Adams there now. So who steps into that role, or is it more filled by committee? Dobbs so far, the 4th-round draft pick out of Nevada, he's been who everyone's been raving about during camp. Obviously you have a guy like Christian Watson who's there as well, who everyone looked to potentially replace him. Allen Lazard's another popular guy. Randall Cobb and the rest of the guys on the roster that have already been there. But you got to trust that Aaron Rodgers is so talented. He's the type of quarterback that's really like a high tide. It raises all boats. And I think you're going to see that from this offense this year. Someone's going to emerge as the guy. I mean, we've seen that over the course of Aaron Rodgers' career. whether it was Jordy Nelson or Greg Jennings or whoever else you throw in the conversation. Then it was Devontae Adams. He seems to be able to work with and make whoever he's throwing to the type of Pro Bowl caliber player. So I don't doubt that it's going to be the case. It just depends on who that guy is going to be. We just don't know yet.
Brady Quinn, we appreciate it. Brady with his top 10 quarterbacks entering this season there. Let's take another look at that list there. According to Brady Quinn, coming in at number 1, he said 1 through 4 was very easy for him. Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes. After that, it got a little dicey, says Lamar Jackson, a little bit polarizing there at number 6. Justin Herbert coming in at number 9, but could make a big leap this year. Do you want a sports network that delivers everything that matters about the game? The highlights, the picks, the instant analysis, no yelling, no fake debates, no politics. Hit the subscribe button and never miss a moment.